Good morning, Rabotai. Welcome to breakfast and the class. Today's breakfast and class is dedicated in loving memory of Nishmat Esther Bat Victoria, sponsored by the Shwai family. As well, dedicated in loving memory of Mrs. Lily Safra Aleh Shalom. Lilui Nishmat Leah Bat Chana. Our philanthropy has reached so many throughout the entire world. The month of Kobru is dedicated in honor of Rachel Sai, donated by her children. And breakfast and the class also sponsored anonymously, dedicated in honor of Tarma Bat Divorah. May she always be blessed with health, happiness, success in all her endeavors, and all the best in life. As well, in loving memory, Lilui Nishmat Haim Moshe Ze'ev Ben Yisrael. Ruach Adonai Tenichenu Began Eden. My friends, in this week's parasha, we learn many things. Well, I think the overriding and overarching concept that we see more than anything else is the premium that God and the Jewish religion places on the way a person sees, views, and takes care of another. Let's just take a look for 1 minute at some of the themes that we find in this week's parasha. The first thing that we experience is the idea of Bikur Cholim, of visiting the sick. In fact, my class this Shabbat afternoon, which is now very early, is about I think 3:10 or 3:15 in the afternoon, before Mincha, my class on Shabbat is going to be about Bikur Cholim, about visiting the sick. God visits Avraham. Then we read about Avraham Avinu doing Achnasat Orchim, welcoming in the guests. Right? Then we read about Avraham Avinu, his detail-oriented approach to taking care of them. Then we read about the people of Sodom and caring for those that are not like you. Something that we could learn a lot from in our divisive society. The idea that someone who's unlike you, doesn't believe in the same things, who's not like you, doesn't mean that you have to hate them and push them away. You could feel compassion for them. You could want to change them. You could engage in dialogue. But at the same time, you could still appreciate that they are also human beings, deserving of dignity, of respect, of warmth, and of care. All of these ideas are found littered throughout the parasha. So the concept of how a person thinks of and treats somebody else features highly in this week's parasha. And I think that there's something that I would like to draw everyone's attention to. And that is as follows. You know, oftentimes, when it comes to chesed, when it comes to kindness, a person is thinking specifically about what it is that they are doing for the other person. How much money they're giving them. How they're going to introduce them to a shidduch, get them a job. How they're going to find the right care for them, the right solutions to their medical issues, introduce them to the right doctor. All the various things we think about what we're going to do. But from this week's parasha, we also learn that there's an importance attached not to what you do, but to how you do what you do. The pasuk tells us that when Avram sees these guests, Vayaratz likratam, and he saw and he ran towards them. What's interesting to me is that Rashi points out that these three people are standing there in the distance and they're not coming closer. Vayar Avraham, and Avraham sees three people standing. Vayaratz likratam, and he saw and he ran towards them. Rashi asks, he saw three people and he saw and he ran towards them. What are these two? And he saw, Rashi explains, the first and he saw means that there was a visual appreciation. He noticed what was going on, he saw. The second vayar means, and he understood. And he recognized, and he fathomed why it was that three people are standing there and not moving closer towards him. He recognized that they did not want to bother him. If he was sick, if he was difficult, if it was a problem. So what did he do? He went out of his way to go run towards them. My friends, maybe the best thing that Avraham did in this whole story is not the fact that he makes them a meal for the ages. Prepares for them so much meat and bread and this and water. Not the meal. Maybe not the shade. But it was the care and concern that Avraham did it with. I want you to imagine that you get stuck in some place for Shabbat. You have to turn up to somebody's house to eat. But the whole time the person is asking you, while you're there sitting at the table, why didn't you think about this earlier? Why you're last minute, you have to come. Look, we're going to have you now. Obviously, we're going to... And they make you feel like zift, like dirt. That meal could be the most gourmet meal you ever ate in your life. But what does the food taste like? It tastes like dirt to a person that's not made to feel welcome. On the other hand, you have someone who has almost nothing in the house. They barely have enough food for themselves. It's not tasty food, it's cheap food. You have a little bread, you have a little hummus, something to eat, a little, nothing. But the person makes you feel like you're his brother. Welcome into my house. The food tastes like the most delicious food in the world. My friends, this Vayera tzlikratam that Abraham ran towards them was, in my opinion, even more important than what he served them, was how he served them. A person could ask you for tzedakah, and you could tell him, I gave you already. No, here, take this. What are you coming now? What are you doing? Whatever you gave them, it's nice. But you have a 60, 70, 80% discount on the mitzvah you have to take away because of the way you approach the mitzvah. Ve'ela bakar ratz Avraham. Everything that Avraham is doing, he's running. There was a great rabbi whose name was Rabbi Shlomo Gordon, and he said that every step a person takes for somebody else saves them 1,000 steps. All the time we do chesed, we do it begrudgingly, but what sits at the root of our begrudging nature? How come we can't do it with a smile? How come we can't be large? How come we don't do it in a way where the person is not made to feel like they're extra? How come? The answer to that is because we feel that what I'm doing for you comes at the expense of me. I have less food, I have less time, I have less money. But Judaism teaches that the exact opposite is the truth. That every step you take for me is saving you 1,000 steps. Rabbi Turk relates the following incredible story that he witnessed with his own eyes. In Eretz Yisrael, in the holiday of Sukkot, every night of the holiday they have something called the Simchat Bet HaShoeva, which means that there's a rejoicing that people do. There's music, there's singing, there's dancing, and they dance their night away. All the nights of Sukkot is filled with tremendous simcha. Anyway, one night, there's a fellow, he's dancing his heart out the whole night. He's exhausted, he's sweaty, he hasn't eaten anything, he's ready to go home. It's almost midnight. As he walks out of the synagogue, right in front of the synagogue, he's approached by someone. This guy says, look, do me a favor, would you mind, you have 10 minutes? It's 10 o'clock, he's exhausted, he's sweaty, he wants to go to bed, he wants to grab something to eat and just hit the sack, hopefully get up in time for Shahari tomorrow. He's already telling the guy no. The guy says, listen, I know you're tired, I know you're sweaty, I know you've been dancing all night. He says, but I know it's midnight. He goes, but right opposite the shul, in the apartment building right over there, there's a person who's unfortunately unwell. And he used to take part in every Simchat Beit HaShoeva, but he wasn't strong enough to be able to leave his bed. What do you say? We go up there, a few of us, maybe for 10, 20 minutes, and we sing and we dance with him, and we give him the feeling that the Simchat Beit HaShoeva, this joyous occasion, came to him. It's going to make such a difference to him. Could you give just 10 minutes? The guy says, you know what? 10 minutes, it's right here. Okay, let's go. He goes up there, he walks in, there's already a few people standing there in this man's home. It's almost midnight. The family is so happy, they can't believe it. They start dancing in front of the guy. V'samachta b'chagecha v'hayita ach sameach. Only be happy. They bring such joy to this invalid, to this person who's not well in his bed. And they don't come in and they say, good yom tev. They don't give him they really brought the joy, the happiness, whatever the joy, energy they had back in the shul, they brought it into this apartment. Anyway, the guy, from the beginning, he's just lying there on his bed. He's a little smile on his face, weakly kind of go. As they get more and more into it, the guy's getting more into it. Even there comes a moment when he pulls himself up with all of his strength. He gets up and for maybe a minute, he's dancing with them before he has to lie down again. The family, the mother, the children of this guy, they see their father. It's the first time he's out of bed in God knows how long, with a smile on his face. They're all sitting there crying tears of joy watching this scene. Anyway, V'samachta b'chagecha goes on. The joy, the dancing. Finally, 10 minutes go by, 20 minutes go by. Hazaku Baruch, Chag Sameach. The guy, he leaves the apartment. He walks down the stairs. As he walks out of the apartment, he sees in front of him there's a lady that's walking on the curb, on the sidewalk, maybe leaving the Simchat Peh HaShoevah from the shul. And as she's walking towards the street, there's a little spot on the sidewalk where there's a little oil spot. She slips on this oil. She goes literally, flies up, her legs fly in the air. She smacks her head on the concrete. He thinks to himself, wow, mitzvah goreret mitzvah. I went to take care of this sick person. Hashem brought me another mitzvah. As he's running towards this lady, he sees it happen right away. He's already dialing Hatzalah. It's a dark street. There's no light. No one can even see what's going on. If he wasn't there at that moment, God knows what would have happened to her. She blacks out. They don't find her until it's too late. There's blood pooling in the brain. He dials Hatzalah. He thanks Hashem that he's got a mitzvah. And he runs towards the lady to tell her that every help is coming. And as he gets towards this lady on the street, he leans down. He tells her the Hatzalah is coming. And he notices that the face of this lady is familiar. The face of this lady is the face of his wife. The 10 minutes he spends in the apartment bringing joy to this sick person saves the life of his own wife. Could you imagine the days of sadness he would have endured if his wife would have passed in such a freak accident? Could you imagine all the agmat nefesh, all the joy that would have been robbed? The next year it would have been his house where there was no Simchat Beit HaShoevah. So what did God do? Roughly 10 minutes before his wife took a spill, God sends him an opportunity. You want to go upstairs for 10 minutes? Some guy up there doesn't have a Simchat Beit HaShoevah. I know you're tired. You have 10? Just 10 minutes. He's already saying no. Every step you take for someone else is 1,000 steps you save for yourself. That's the crazy thing about chesed. The Gemara says that the letters of the Aleph Bet teach us many different things. Aleph Bet, says the Gemara, Aleph Bina. Let me teach you wisdom. Gimel Dalid, Gomel Dalim. A person who does kindness for those that are poor. The letters themselves teach you wisdom. And what's the first bit of wisdom that the letters teach you? Aleph Bet, Aleph Bina. Let me teach you wisdom. Gomel Dalim. Take care of those that are impoverished, that don't have. My friends, the idea of dal does not only mean poor. If you're Israeli, you'll know that the word dal appears on many products. We have a fellow Israeli here, right? Where do you see dal on a product in Israel? Dal kaloriot. Dal shuman. Less calories, few calories. Very little fat. Dal natran. Doesn't have that much sodium. Dal means does not have. Gomel Dalim doesn't tell you what the person doesn't have. It just says that he doesn't have something. This guy in bed might have been a rich guy. But what he was rich in money, he was poor in joy. We have the opportunity sometimes to do for another person. And the harder it is, and the more difficult it is, and the more effort it is, the more that pays dividends for us. My friends, chesed means doing nice things for others. But the kind of chesed that we should seek out, that is precious, more precious than a jewel, is chesed which is nice for someone else and difficult for us. How much pain is every step for Avraham Avinu? I'm just imagining a guy 99 years old as a Brit Milah, and he's running every step that he takes, every move he makes. I'll be screaming, oi. You imagine? But Avram doesn't do that. Tomorrow is the yahrzeit of a great rabbi from Morocco. His name was Rabbi Rafael Baruch Toledano. He lived in Mechnes. His father was the rabbi of the community, Cham Yaakov. He was a tremendous Talmid Chacham. But he became famous at a young age for serving the community's needs. Not for building a yeshiva only. He did that too. He became a tremendous Talmid Chacham. He became the biggest Talmid Chacham in Halakha, in Kabbalah. He learned from his rabbis, Rabbi Mashash, others, Rav Berdugo. But my friends, you know what he did in the city? He opened up an organization, no frills. You know what he called it? Bikur Cholim. He opened up another organization. You know what he called it? Malbish Arumim. Giving people who don't have clothes something to wear. Last night, Jessica and Haron went to Costco because we have this incredible event on Sunday called Giving the Gift of Warmth, where we bring warm clothing to people who are poor, who are homeless. Most of these people, Hazit, they're not 100% normal. Even if you offer them, they don't even want to go off the street. They're Hazit, they're sick people. So in the synagogue, we have people donate objects, gloves, scarves, hats, coats, blankets, anything that someone who's freezing cold, living rough could possibly need. And the young people come, and the young people pack the goods themselves that people from the community make in their factories. They bring these bags, and then they take the bags and they give them out on the street. What a gorgeous thing. We were missing some gloves, so Haron and Jessica went to Costco. And they're sitting in Costco, and they take 200 pairs of warm gloves off of the shelf. In Costco, they have to boop, 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 200 pairs of gloves. Anyway, everyone's sitting online, they're watching this line, they're thinking to themselves, Shema Yisrael, we're on the wrong line. One guy comes up, he says, instead of yelling at them, what are you doing? He sees Haron's got a kippah on his head. He says to him, he goes, what is this? What are you guys doing? Do you guys have a ski lodge? So Jessica says, no, it's not a ski lodge. Actually, we have this event. It's called Giving the Gift of Warmth. It's for people that are poor. It's for people who are freezing cold. We're trying to give them the things that they need in order to stay warm. The guy can't believe it. He says, wow, that's for 200 pairs of... He said, yeah, that we make the bags, The guy's like, wow, I can't... Comes over a little while later. He says, tell me, you said that this comes from the... Who sponsors? Where do you get the funding from to be able to do this in the community? So she said, we have generous people in the community. They help out. People donate the things that they make in their factories. And whatever's missing, we go out, we buy, and then we collect the money and we ask the people in the community to take part in this mitzvah of chesed. The guy says, I can't believe that's so beautiful. And he pulls out $100. He says, I would like a part in this beautiful thing that you're doing. Gorgeous. He doesn't know her. We don't know the people on the street. But it's not about who you know, what you know. It's about the fact that you could see that somebody needs something. And if I could do something about the fact that someone else needs something, shouldn't I do that? Rabbi Rafael Baruch Toledano, he understood there's people out there that they're so vulnerable. He started to realize that there were people who were able to get married, you know, these girls, because they had a father who had money to be able to help set the couple up after. So he started an organization, simple, no frills, Mohar Betulot, to give dowries to the single girls so that they could find a shidduch, they could find someone, have a wedding, build a home. So simple. That's the nature of chesed. Chesed, the craziest thing, is obvious. It's all around us. If you just pay attention to the needs of another person, they jump in front of you, and then HaKadosh Baruch Hu rewards you 1,000 times over for your sensitivity. But you cannot compare a person who takes care of a need to a person who takes care of a need with the sensitivity that need requires. There was a young couple that lived in Eretz Israel, in America a little while ago. And unfortunately, they started their marriage like everybody else, waiting for the thing that young couples wait for, to build a family. But 1 year after the next, nothing helped. Treatment after treatment, nothing helped. 10 years go by, 15 years go by, 20 years go by, they still haven't had a child. And then one day, this woman gives birth to a baby boy, and the whole community comes out for the Brit Milah, for the what's it called, for the Pidyon Haben. Everyone's going crazy. What a simcha this is. They're going nuts. They can't believe it. Everyone is celebrating in the highest form because of how much pain they saw this couple go through. And now how much joy. Their joy was everyone's joy. Anyway, one day, many years after the baby was born, a friend comes to this man, a close friend. He says, tell me, I've asked you 100 times. You guys never had kids. What did you do differently that all of a sudden you were zochet to have children? And the guy says, listen, by now my son is 16 years old. I feel like I could tell you. 16 years you've been asking me this question. 16 years I've been giving you the runaround. But now my son is 16 years old, I can tell you what happened. We tried everything. Eventually we came to the conclusion that If it was not meant to happen for us, it was not meant to happen for us. So we kind of gave up. One day, there was a story that went around the community. It was horrible. There was a girl who was 14 or 15 years old in high school in the community, whose father fell upon hard times, and he couldn't pay tuition in the Jewish school for his daughter. The school sent him message after message after message. You have to pay. We have to pay our teachers. We're not running a school over here. More messages, more messages. The guy didn't have the money. They send him a warning. Look, we can't have people here for free. We're really sorry. Until eventually, the guy ignored enough messages that the school sent this teenage girl home from school because she couldn't pay the fee for the yeshiva. Now, I know your thoughts, everybody here is thinking, oh, yeshivas are terrible. Everybody loves to blame institutions, but institutions are made up of people. And those people have realistic concerns. They have to pay the bills. They can't let people not pay. And if they do, then no one will pay. So it's not, the villain in the story is not the school for not having, they actually pushed the story long enough until they carried it for free as long as they could. Eventually, there was nothing more that they could do. They sent her home. Word spread through. She was a great girl. There's no reason why she would leave school all of a sudden. There's no reason why a religious girl, should start going to public school. Everybody understood that the reason was because the family was so poor they didn't have money. The girl was humiliated. She couldn't show her face in shul, in the community, at events. The family, under the radar, hiding under the table. The guy says to his wife, look, we don't have kids. We're never going to have to pay tuition. Maybe let's go. Maybe let's see what we could do for this girl in the school. They call a secret meeting with the principal of the school and the finance people in the school, and they say, listen, I don't know what we could do, but we have to solve this problem. You can't have a girl publicly humiliate a family walking around with this cloud over their heads. How much money is it? How much money does she owe? Maybe we could try and pay some of it. The guy makes a, back of the napkin calculation, this, that, the other. He comes up with a number, thousands and thousands and thousands of dollars. He says, look, what if me and my wife, what if we took on to try and pay it on their behalf? The principal says she's only 3 years through school, 2 years through school. She's got a few more years. Well, how much would the whole thing be? From where she didn't pay until the end of high school. The guy makes a calculation, astronomical sum. Could you imagine? Anyone here who's paying tuition knows how expensive it is. Imagine you had to pay for all the years in one shot. The guy says, look, that's too much. He goes, I don't have that money. But he says, but here's what I could do. If you let me pay in payments, I'll pay every month a couple $100. That's how much I could put aside. I'll pay off the entire amount of tuition. The guy says, you realize that's like 70 payments. He says, you know what? It's okay. We'll do it. 6 years worth of payments he's taking on himself for a girl he doesn't know. Immediately, he says, after this story, my wife became pregnant. But the deal with the school was that no one would ever know that I did it for her. And I didn't want to tell anyone. But now my son is 16 years old. He's older than she was at the time of the story. The story is long gone. Why was he so careful not to say? Number one, the reason why he was careful not to say is because mitzvah, tzedakah that you do, beseter, is the highest form of tzedakah. Tzedakah that you do in private, in hiding. Where you don't know the ani doesn't know you, the principal doesn't tell the girl, they just tell the girl that we decided to take you back. But my friends, it's more than that. And I need you to hear this carefully. Listen carefully. It's not just that he did tzedakah privately. What was the whole point that got him involved here? He wasn't getting involved because of Jewish education of the child. That's not what brought him to the table. What brought him to the table for this young girl? Her humiliation, her embarrassment. So what good would it do if you save her from the embarrassment of not being able to pay the school and you trade the embarrassment with the embarrassment that someone had to pay for her? Sometimes we don't think what it is that the person is dal, what it is that the person is missing. More than Jewish education, this girl was missing her humanity, she was missing her dignity. The family was missing the simplest ability to feel like they could take care of their child. So what'd you do? You took it away from the school and you gave it to the guy. You made him feel, he still feels like a nobody. They still felt like nobodies. My friends, that is the power of chesed. Getting into someone else's shoes, feeling what is the problem that I'm solving, and then trying to solve that problem in this beautiful way. Rabbi Raphael Baruch was so special in this way. Once they called him this name because he was very unwell as a child. And one day his friend was sitting with him, Rav Yaakov Mashash, who was eventually become the chief rabbi of Haifa. And he's sitting with his friend, and this young boy, he's crying, he's in so much pain. All of a sudden, he stops crying. His father walks into the room, father takes care of whatever he needs to take care of, he walks out, the boy starts crying again. He says to his friend, he goes, what happened? You just all of a sudden stopped crying and now you're crying again. Did something happen? Did it go away? Did it come back? He says, no, I had it the whole time. He says, but when my father comes into the room, I don't want my father to feel how much pain I'm in. So when my father walked in, I bit my lip and I tried as much as I could not to cry, not to kvetch. Because I know there's nothing he could do. It's only going to fill his heart with such sadness, with such sorrow. My friends, think about this. Some people buy their father a car. Some people buy their father an apartment in Miami. Some people buy their father nice dinners. But this young boy, what he gave his father, which didn't cost him a dime, it cost him discomfort. It's not always comfortable to do the things that we can do for others. Sometimes it's a lot of stairs to climb. Sometimes it's a lot of heavy bags to lift. Sometimes it's a matter of going to ask other people for help, which you know what people say, I'd rather write a check. I don't want to ask anybody for anything. That's the uncomfortable thing. That's what he needs you to do. It doesn't have to cost money. It has to cost you. When a person does it that way, then the rewards of the chesed that they've done is unimaginable. Baruch Adonai Le'olam. Amen v'amen. Rabbi